오늘은 조셉 렌줄리 박사님과 함께 미니키티가 영재인지 아닌지, 영재로 판별을 받은 후에는 어떻게 해야 하는지, 성적이 저조하거나 결과물을 만들어내는데 어려움을 겪는 가능성이 많은 아이들은 과연 어떻게 지도해야 되는지와 같은 궁금증을 풀어보도록 하겠습니다. 조셉 렌줄리 박사님은 모든 아이들을 위한 영재교육의 리더이자 개척자이십니다. 미국 심리학회에서 25명의 가장 영향력 있는 심리학자 중에 한 명으로 이분의 이름을 올리신 적이 있고요. 교육계의 노벨상이라고도 불리우는 해럴드 W. 맥그로 주니어상을 받으셨습니다. 백악관 영재교육 특임 컨설턴트로 일하셨고요. 미국 국립영재교육연구소 책임자이셨습니다. 현재 코네티컷 주립대학의 석좌 교수이시며 이사회로부터 공로를 인정받으신 교수님이십니다. 출판된 학술지와 참여하신 책과 기사 등을 모두 합하면 수백 개에 달하는 왕성한 활동을 하셨고요. 한국에도 많은 영향력을 주신 영재교육계의 대부로 꼽히시는 분입니다. 한국에 출판된 책으로는요. 교육과정 압축, 다중 메뉴 모델, 심화 집단, 학습 스타일 검사 도구, 흥미 도구들, 재능 개발을 위한 학교, 종합 재능 기록표, 영재와 행동 특성 평정 척도 등이 있습니다. 정말 많이 나왔죠. 영재가 뭔가요? 교수님이 저 아이는 영재다라고 딱 생각하게 되는 순간 이유가 뭐예요?
Well, if you ask 5 experts the question, what is giftedness, you're likely to get 5 different responses. I view it in a somewhat different way than most people who are studying giftedness. First of all, I talk about 2 types of giftedness, and one I call high-achieving giftedness, and those are young people who go to school well, who get good grades, who are high achievers in the regular academic curriculum. The other type of giftedness, and the one that my work is concentrated on mostly, is what I refer to as creative, productive giftedness. And that's the kind of giftedness that leads to people who become inventors, entrepreneurs, writers, producers of knowledge, rather than just people who absorb knowledge and are able to give the right answers back on a test. And the best way to view the way that I look at giftedness is to look at this diagram. And what I've found is that when it comes to highly creative and productive individuals, they're characterized by these 3 interlocking clusters of ability. The first one is above average ability in a particular area. It might be science, it might be music, it might be poetry, it might be mathematics. The second is a cluster of traits that I refer to as task commitment, and that's a very refined or focused form of motivation. In psychology, motivation is generally looked at as a general concept. You're motivated to be a good student, or to be a good parent, or to be a good writer. However, task commitment is focusing in on a particular piece of writing that you're working on, or on a particular project, or a particular piece of music that you're trying to create or produce. And so it's very focused form of motivation. The third cluster of traits is creativity. And that's the ability to look at problems in new and different ways, to raise questions that perhaps other people have not raised, to put together different elements that might form a new combination of relationships between and among elements. And so all 3 of these clusters working together produce the center part of the diagram, what I refer to as gifted behaviors. I don't believe that a person is gifted or not gifted. I believe rather that we develop in young people a series of gifted behaviors, and that we know that these behaviors are working when they start to apply them to a particular area that they have an interest in. So I could know all of the words in the language, however, until I can write a story or a poem that gives meaning to those words and hopefully makes them impactful on an audience, then that's when I know gifted behaviors are being produced. I don't believe that this happens in all people. The diagram at the bottom shows ICP in certain people. We can't do this in all people. I don't believe that even in the same person we can do it all the time, every single day of the week. ACT stands for at certain times, and WCC stands for within certain contexts. That is, one person might be able to develop gifted behaviors in a scientific area, another person in a filmmaking area, another person in a leadership area. So it's not something that is fixed in time within the person, like the color of one's eyes is fixed, but rather it's something that we develop, again, in certain people, not all people, at certain times, not all the time, and within certain circumstances or contexts.
우리 미니키디가요, 치매에 걸리시는 분들도 정신이 깜빡깜빡 들어왔다가 나갔다가 하는 것처럼 평상시에는 그렇게 똑똑하지 않은데 낚시를 하러 갈 때면 얘가 고도의 창의성과 지능과 끈기를 보여주거든요. 그러면 미니키티는 낚시에 영재성이 있다고 판단해도 되는 건가요?
Well, if she is very good at fishing compared with other kitties,
Yes.
And she catches many more fish because she knows the right place to throw the hook and how to attract the fish, then I would say she is developing gifted behaviors in fishing. And that's as much as I can say just based on her actual behavior. I think that gifted behaviors are something that people display, and therefore, if she does it better than other kitties, then she's developing and displaying gifted behaviors in fishing. Now, when it comes to bird watching, she might not be as gifted.
Okay, 미니키디, you're gifted. 교수님, 그러면 내 아이가 전문가에 의해 영재라고 판단을 받았을 경우에 부모님이나 아이들은 그 정보를 어떻게 받아들여야 되는 건가요? 예를 들어서 아이의 잠재력을 키우기 위해서 뭘 해야 된다거나 아니면 뭘 하지 말아야 된다거나 그런 조언이 있으시면 말씀해 주세요.
Well, I believe that we develop gifted behaviors by providing young people with what I call the concept of OR. And OR stands for opportunities, resources, and encouragement. And so I believe that the best way to develop opportunities, resources, and encouragement is to identify an area in which the child has a very strong interest, a very sincere interest, and provide the opportunities and the resources within that area. So that if a child is very interested in science, one of the things that parents can do is get the child some scientific equipment, get him some or her some books or some other resources that scientists typically use. And I believe that this is the most important way to develop gifted behaviors. I find that interest is predominant in the people that the world knows as highly gifted people in the sense that they've made important contributions to the area in which they work. It's always been that strong interest that drives them forward. So an opportunity isn't an opportunity if you're not interested. So it's that combination of interests and then opportunities and resources and encouragement and support that teachers and parents should give to a child to develop gifted behaviors.
But some gifted students have various interests in so many different fields. In that case, parents should give them various resources of opportunities.
Well, I think that it's not a bad idea to give children some general opportunities in lots and lots of different areas. In fact, that's how oftentimes they might discover an area that they didn't even know existed until the parents took the child to a museum or took them to a concert or allowed them to work with a certain kind of material, like, for example, filmmaking. But once that strong interest emerges, then I think that we want to have them concentrate on it for a while. Otherwise, they become what in English we call a gadfly. They want to jump around to this, that, and the other thing. And you have to remember that anybody that has ever been recognized historically as a gifted contributor, and please note that I use the word as an adjective, not a noun, as a gifted contributor, it's always been in a very particular area. So there have been very few people in the history of mankind that have made contributions in 3 or 4 or 5 different areas. It's almost always singleness of purpose and interest that has caused them to make breakthroughs in their respective areas of knowledge.
So you just mentioned that all the people are gifted. Is
No,
that correct?
no, I did not say all the people are
Right.
gifted.
Right.
In certain people, I believe that we certainly can develop gifted behaviors in a larger proportion of the school population than just the students who score high on test scores. Yeah, I think that there are many people who do well academically, which obviously we want for as many children as possible. But what we have found is that there are some children, young people, who are not necessarily at the top of the scores in academic areas, but they also have a tremendous amount of creativity, tremendous amount of task commitment, and if we give them an area in which they have a strong interest, they will develop their gifted behaviors.
So were you a good student?
I was probably what would be considered to be a high average student. I was never the smartest student in my class, and I found that I did my best work when I was working in an area that I had a strong interest in. In the other areas, I did as good as I could, but I was not a superstar, as we say in English.
제가 교수님이 전에 인터뷰 하신 걸 제가 읽은 적이 있거든요. 교수님 아버지가 창의적이셨는데 그분의 창의성이 학교에서 가치를 인정받지 못해서 대학에 진학하지 않았다는 이야기였어요. 오늘날의 학교는 어떤가요? 학교에서 창의성이나 공부 이외의 능력들에 가치를 둔다고 생각하세요? 아니면 100년 전과 비교해서 그다지 달라진 게 없다고 보세요?
The trend seems to be moving in the direction not of replacing academic abilities with non-cognitive abilities, or they're being referred to in the literature today as soft skills. But people are recognizing that they're very important in success in almost any areas. The ability to work cooperatively with others, the ability to organize and manage one's time, the ability to develop self-regulation in the work that you do, to concentrate and focus, are becoming more and more recognized as contributors to success in almost any profession. I think that even now, if we look at the employment market, yes, they want people to be smart in the traditional sense that they know the field that they are working in, but they also believe that these other skills play a big role in job success.
창의성이나 영재성 판단은 결국에 생산성과 직접적으로 연결이 되는데요. 반면에 twice exceptional 학생이라던가 일부의 성적부진아 같은 경우에 잠재성이 있음에도 불구하고 좋은 성적이라던가 뭔가 창의적인 결과물을 만들어내는데 어려움을 겪는 특징이 있지 않습니까? 이런 학생들은 영재판별에서 떨어지기가 쉽거든요. 이런 경우 부모님들이 아이들의 잠재력을 어떻게 끄집어내야 되나요?
Twice exceptional children are a very large challenge in our field. I think that one of the things that is most important is not to place primary focus on a child's disability or the kinds of things that she or he is not doing well. One of the things that we need to do is to give young people a lot of general types of enrichment, what I call in the diagram that you're seeing type 1 and type 2 enrichment, and find out which areas they might develop a strong interest, which they might show some advanced potential, and then use those as stepping stones to develop more advanced level work. That's the arrow leading into type 3 enrichment from type 1 and type 2 enrichment. Concentrating on the abilities may in fact overcome some of the disabilities. When children have learning problems, we oftentimes want to drill and practice that child over and over and over. They become very bored, they become very frustrated, they become very uninterested. So I like to find out what a child wants to do and likes to do and use that as a vehicle for overcoming some of the kinds of things that make them twice exceptional, which really means that they're bright, but they also have certain kinds of learning disabilities.
So, for example, there is a child, and the child has really, really high IQ, but the child doesn't have any interest, any motivations. In that case, we cannot call the student or child gifted.
Well, we can call that child a high test taker. They score well, and therefore we know that about the child. The only thing that I can suggest is that we start by looking at very general areas of interest. Are they more mathematical or musical or scientific or artistic? And even if they're musical, is it vocal music? Is it instrumental music? Is it writing music? So we start at a very general area, and then we focus and focus and focus down to a much more specific area. And I think that it may take some time, because a youngster, let's say, that's interested in science might not know that there are many, many different areas of science. They might be interested in something very specific, like bugs or beetles, or they might be interested in something related to the environment. But that's why in the diagram that we have here, type 1 and type 2 enrichment, especially type 1 enrichment, we want to expose young people to a lot of different areas within their general area of interest, and that's the only thing I can suggest. And if we can't get a child to get excited about one of those, we either quit and give up, which I don't recommend, or we keep looking for an area in which they might become very much interested, so much so that they would then like to go on and do some advanced work in that area.
렌줄리 학교가 학생들의 창의력뿐만 아니라 시험 평가에서도 좋은 결과를 보여줬는데요. 다른 나라의 학교나 국제 학교들이 렌줄리 학교로부터 배울 수 있거나 적용할 수 있는 것이 있습니까? 예를 들어서 시험 성적이나 대학 진학률이 매우 중요한 학교에서도 렌줄리 학교 모델이 쓸모 있다고 보세요?
The high stakes testing that goes on in America and Korea and many, many other countries in the world are a part of the education system that has gained a lot of prominence because it's very easy to measure. I think that creativity, on the other hand, is not as easy to measure, and therefore we don't seem to want to give as much emphasis to that as we probably should. I believe in the Renzulli Schools, we certainly place an emphasis on improving school achievement, but we balance that out with opportunities for creativity, opportunities for what you see in the diagram is what I call type 3 enrichment. And that's enrichment where youngsters are able to select a topic that they have a strong interest in. They pursue that topic in the manner of the practicing professional. If it means going out and gathering some data, then we teach them data gathering skills. We also try to bring to their attention that their work must have an impact on a particular audience, because in the outside of school world, the creative person is always placing audience as their first motivation. They want to get somebody to buy their book. They get somebody to eat the special recipe that they've prepared. They want somebody to listen to their music. And so we want to also make sure that young people are not always focused on simply getting a predetermined correct answer. We want to give them problems for which there is not a single predetermined correct answer, because that's how your creativity grows, and that's how you come up with new ideas. And so in the schools that use our model, we call it the school-wide enrichment model, we certainly pay a lot of attention to academic achievement, but we try to balance that with opportunities for more creative, more investigative kinds of endeavor, giving youngsters an opportunity not just to play music, but to write their own music, not just to read poetry, but to write their own poems, not just to learn a particular topic in science, but also to do some scientific investigations on their own.
I love your model, and that's why I learned your model. But in reality, although so many teachers want to nurture creativity, just like you mentioned, it's so hard to measure their achievement, and their children's parents are so nervous about their kids sending to college, better college, especially in Korea. It's so competitive. So could you tell me what teachers should do to be balanced?
Well, I think we've already talked about some of the things that teachers can do to develop creativity, but the organization itself, the school, must also place a value on creativity. And I think that we depend so much on achievement tests, but if we rated schools also in the variety and the nature and the opportunity that we give children to do creative things, that yes, your school is very good because your scores are high, but your creativity is very low. There's an expression that we sometimes use in America, especially related to schools, that goes like this: that which is evaluated gets done. So if I say, I'm going to give your school a creativity score, not your students, your school, a creativity score, as well as looking at how high your achievement test scores are, then the school might start to do some of these kinds of things. I think that it's very important because the nations that are the most prosperous are the nations that are inventing things and creating things. And I think that if we value it to the point that we will actually have a system for judging how effective a school is in promoting creativity, then schools will do it. That which is evaluated gets done. So if a school has 95th percentile in academic achievement, but 10th percentile in developing innovation and creativity and original thinking, then we'll say that school's not balanced. It needs to have more emphasis on those kinds of things. And we can look at the work that young people do, the young people that are writers, if they get their work published, the young people in science who might win a science competition, who might have one of their scientific projects judged to be worthwhile for submitting for a patent. Those are the kinds of things that really show that a school is placing emphasis on creativity as well as just lesson learning.
So like whole countries should value creativity and exploratory learning.
Yep, I heard a minister of education say, nations that invent things own the world. And basically, we should get more of our children to be inventive. It's not enough just to be high scorers and never be able to apply that to innovation and invention and new ideas, new writing, new theories. And so it's very important to the economy of a nation as well as to the culture of a nation.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned the Ferragamo was not just accidental achievement.
Yes, at one time, after World War II, Italy decided that they needed to start to do more to improve their economy. And they said, what are we good at? What have we been well known for throughout the centuries? And one of the things was design. And not just fashion design, but furniture design, boat building design, automobile design. And so they started having special opportunities for kids to learn design skills. They had special schools for different kinds of design. And now, if you go to Madison Avenue in New York, where all the famous designers at one time were all French, now they're all Italian. Why? Because they invested in it. We have to look at creativity as an investment, not an expense, but an investment in the future of a nation.
전에 교수님이 한국은 영재교육 체계가 좋다고 말씀을 하셨거든요. 왜 그렇게 생각하셨는지 말씀해 주세요.
Well, I've had the good fortune to go to Korea a number of times, and I think that you have had some educational leaders in Korea that I've had the opportunity to work with, Dr. Choi, who is now here in America at St. John's University, and the Korean Ministry of Education also has realized that they need to do things to develop the creativity, the giftedness and talent of the young people in Korea. So I think that they have sent many educators, many teachers from Korea have come here to the United States. I know in our summer Confertute program and our summer courses, we've had many teachers from Korea here. And I think that Korea has realized that they have a very intelligent, a very able population, but they need to develop these other kinds of skills in that population if they are to reach the full creative development of the nation.
한국이 매우 가난한 나라였을 때 모든 아이들이 교육의 기회가 있었던 건 아니었거든요. 그래서 어떤 부모님들은 자신의 자녀들 중에서 가장 똑똑하고 성공할 것 같은 아이를 대표로 몇몇 뽑아서 교육을 시키기도 했어요. 그게 싫으면 그냥 첫째 아들 장남을 대표로 교육을 시킨다거나 아니면 그 반대가 되는 경우도 있었고요. 지금 미국은 세계에서 가장 잘 사는 나라 중에 하나잖아요. 그런데 왜 아직도 몇몇의 선택받은 영재 아동들만 양질의 영재 교육을 받아야 하는 건가요?
Well, international studies have continuously shown that the gross domestic product of any nation is related to its education system. And that if we increase the quality of the education system, the gross domestic product, the economy will improve as well. And I think that we should provide every child with the best possible education that we can, but not every child is going to have the ability to go on to very, very high levels. The most important thing for me is not to predetermine which children will go to those levels. And that's why my work differs from the work of other people in the gifted field, because other people say, first you must show that you are at a certain level, and then I will give you the opportunities and resources and encouragement to go to higher levels. What I believe is that we should be giving all children general enrichment opportunities, type 1 and type 2 in the diagram. And the ways that young people respond to those opportunities will determine how much further we can give them opportunities to advance to very, very high levels of creative productivity. We don't know. Just because a child is not the highest scorer, we simply don't know that that child does not have some creative potential. And that's why in my work, I recommend general enrichment for all students. I've always said giftedness is in the response. It's not in the person. It's not in the stimulus. It's in the way that young people respond to opportunities. People do this all the time in athletics. They don't say you must be a certain height before we will let you come out and play soccer or football. We say come out and play soccer and football, and then we'll see how good you are, and then you advance that way. We do the same in music. We very much use those two areas as models for developing giftedness in young people. And I think that we should do it in academic areas as well.
매년 여름 7월에 콘프라투트가 이곳 코네티컷 대학교에서 열리는데요. 소개 좀 부탁드릴게요. 그리고 전 세계의 교육자와 부모님들이 콘프라투트에 와서 어떤 정보와 혜택을 얻어가실 수 있는지 말씀해 주세요.
Well, Confertute was developed 38 years ago, and it was developed in order to provide teachers with a brand of learning that is different from very traditional lesson learning. Again, we use the enrichment triad model as the pedagogical core of Confertute. We try to provide teachers and administrators with opportunities to learn how to infuse these kinds of enrichment into their school, how to develop special groupings around children's interests. We call these groupings enrichment clusters, where they're going to not just absorb information, but they're going to create and produce something. We have had some parents attend Confertute, but by and large, it is mainly for teachers and administrators. There are other organizations that may conduct conferences for parents. That's not our particular specialty at Confortute, but we believe that teachers that come to Confortute are interested in a different brand of learning from simply providing information with what I call received knowledge, which is what so much of traditional school is all about, but rather teaching them how to develop a broad range of thinking skills is very important, and most of all, how to apply received knowledge and analytic knowledge to a particular area in which they might like to write a story, develop a science experiment, work on a community service project, or invent something. And so it's, again, the kind of thing that is a little bit different from just simply absorbing information so that you can answer questions correctly on a test.
Okay, and every night there's a party, right?
Yes, we have a party. We have a party every night because our day begins at 8 o'clock and it doesn't end until 9 o'clock. And so after 9 o'clock, we have a party.
Teachers are so passionate. I love good parties.
One of the things that we know is that we live in a very, very complex and rapidly changing world. The other thing is that we live on a planet that is growing in population. We find many innovative ways to keep people healthy and alive for a lot more years, and yet at the same time the resources on our planet are diminishing, and we have to find better ways to face these challenges and make the planet a place that can support in a very prosperous and happy way the many, many people who are not enjoying the kinds of prosperity that some parts of the world are enjoying. And I think that education plays a major role in that. We must increase the number of problem solvers faster than we increase the number of problems that the world is facing. We must learn to be more cautious of the world's resources. We must be more politically savvy so that we all get along better. Again, those are things that we can do through education. I also believe that it is important to value every person, to value every culture, to value the differences that we find between and among people and cultures, because we all have to live on this planet together for a long, long time. I've been to Korea probably, I would say, 4 or 5 times over the last several years, and I've enjoyed being there. I love the architecture. I've been to some of the ancient buildings and the very traditional architecture. Of course, I love the Korean food. I love spicy food very much. One of the things that surprised me was the traffic in both Seoul and Busan. I thought that the traffic here in America was bad, but there it is absolutely the most horrendous traffic, and the drivers are very aggressive. If you move a spot, they will cut in front of you just like that. But I also, the very, very warm hospitality that I experienced when I was in Korea, and it's a very lovely, lovely place to visit.